My talk is entitled Building a Nuclear-Free Homeland. We call it 非核家园 in Chinese. The controversies of phasing out nuclear power in Taiwan. So you may know that you may feel a bit surprised and confused, probably. How could Taiwanese get it down to phase out nuclear power? But before my talk, I could be somewhat confident to tell you we really get it done, which means nuclear power in Taiwan is almost impossible to further develop. And it's a consensus. Interestingly, it's a consensus reached by different parties, societies, NGOs, and the industry. Well, for sure, industry are not happy, but they just couldn't resist the idea. So today I try to use, well, our time is very limited, but I try to give you an overall, so I won't get too deep in the story. So I think I will leave that to the QA if you really have any questions. But I will just give you an overall what's going on in Taiwan since 1980s. Well, that's our very bad way to start with the presentation. We always questions, how has the Taiwanese government been successfully setting the goal of phasing out nuclear power? And that's actually the result of the interaction. So the question we should ask is, what was the interaction between the state, industry, and the society? And then that's actually the result of where is the consensus from? And how has the consensus on nuclear-free Taiwan been formed or been reached? And toward the end, since we have already set up the goal, 2025, we will expect to have a nuclear-free Taiwan. So can this goal be achieved as scheduled? Well, to be honest, I will say no. Actually, it's impossible, for sure. But at least we are on our way toward that goal. Even that goal won't be reached in 2025, but probably later. But at least we are not regressing. As you may know, some countries, they try to stop building nuclear power plants. They try to phase out, but they kind of regress back to even have more nuclear power. But at least Taiwan is on our way to have less and less nuclear power. And so the analytical framework is, I think that's always a struggle between the economic development, energy safety, and environmental protection. And people always put economic development, the government always put economic development first. So that's why phasing out nuclear power has become very difficult. But in Taiwan, there's a broader background is about the democratization and post-democratization, which means after we have become a democracy, how this consensus on nuclear-free was formed, and how was that developed during the authoritarian regime, which means before 1990s. So that's a broader background in Taiwan, and which actually have facilitated the idea of nuclear-free. So I don't know if you feel a bit contradictory, but the nuclear-free idea was actually developed during the authoritarian regime and gradually, just consolidated with the democratization process. This is very different from other countries like Japan, South Korea. Well, South Korea probably a little bit similar, but Japan, they have been a democracy for a long while. So nuclear-free is nothing to do with democratization. But in Taiwan, it is. And the actors in the story is the state. We have ruling party, we have opposition party. And you may know in Taiwan we have two major parties. One is DPP, Democratic Progressive Party. Another is KMT, Kuomintang, the Nationalist Party. So it doesn't matter which one was the ruling party, which one was the opposition party. So they have the consensus. So here I just put the ruling party. But the ruling party has more responsible as a policymaker. But the opposition party doesn't. So that's why I distinguish by the role they play instead of the party. And industry, we have the Taiwan Power. The Taiwan Power, who is the supplier. It's a state-owned, 100% state-owned company. And we have the society, but I distinguish the society into two parts. One is the general public, Another is the environmental NGOs. So that's a very active. I think everywhere, the environmental NGOs, they are the most active. They play the most active role in promoting the nuclear-free idea. And this is a very brief introduction about the nuclear power plants in Taiwan. We have the very first one. It's in Jinshan, it's northern Taiwan. I think it's only 24 kilometers away from Taipei City. And has 2 reactors, which were commissioned in December 1978 and 1979, and will be decommissioned in 2018. So, which means their license will be expired in 2018 for 30 years. That's a rule in Taiwan, 30 years. If they don't issue longer one, then that's 30 years. If they don't prolong your license. The second nuclear power plant is in Wanli. Actually, this one is only, I think it's only 2 kilometers away from the first one. So they're just side by side together. And which means it is close to Taipei, even closer, only 22 kilometers. You can try to imagine how close it is, 22 kilometers. Has 2 reactors as well, which were commissioned in December 1981 and March 1983, respectively, and it will be, that's 30, oh, I'm sorry, it's 2021, so 30 years, another 30 years, another 30 years to 2023. And the third one, now we have 3 established one, plus 1 under construction, which was suspended. So the third one is in Hengchun. Hengchun is the southern tip of Taiwan Island. So 2 in the north, it's northern tip by the seashore, and Hengchun 1 is down to south. It's Hengchun, close to Kaohsiung. Kaohsiung is another big city, the second largest city in Taiwan. It has 2 reactors as well, which were commissioned in 1984 and 1985, and will be another 30 years after they will be decommissioned in 2024 and 2025. And the fourth one, which is the most controversial one, is in Gongliao. So you know, Taiwan is an island. So from north to south, the first one, the second one is the very north. Then third one is a little bit northeast, a little bit northeast. But I would say the fourth one is probably only like 10 to 15 kilometers away from the other 2. You know, Taiwan is just small. It's just a small place. So it's in New Taipei City. The project was proposed in 1980, when we were still under totalitarian regime, but had no progress in the 1980s. Not at all. Nothing. The government just proposed, then suspended, put it aside. No progress. And that was eventually has all the evaluation, all the procedure, and initiated in 1999. Proposed in 1980, the year of 1980. Construction was started in 1990, almost 2 decades. It took almost 2 decades to finish all the procedure. But of course, they are not always, it was not always running about the evaluation. No, it was just put it aside because too controversial, so they just put it aside not to deal with. Then after a few years, when the society seems not to very focus on this, they just brought that back to the agenda. And then people thought, oh, what are we doing? They just put it aside. You know, this back and forth. It took about 2 decades. But the anti-nuclear power movement, the whole response from the society has actually begun in early 1980s. So if you look into the date about this 1980s, it's almost about the date when the first one and the second one were established. About the day when the fourth one was proposed. So that's why when the fourth one was just proposed, the whole society were very against that. So that was put aside for quite a long while. And I think it's in 1986, when former Soviet Union had that huge nuclear power plant accident. You know, that also contributes to the suspension of the whole project in Taiwan, because people said, oh, that's very dangerous, so we shouldn't do this. So in Taiwan, we have 3 major concerns about the nuclear power plants. First is earthquake, of course you may know earthquake, and safety. But by safety, that means it's kind of an idea of not in my backyard, because these first two, first one and second one, so close to Taiwan. So the safety is not just about the nuclear power plants, but also about the safety of us who lives in Taipei. In Taiwan, we have 23 million people. And in Taipei, the greater metropolitan area, we have probably, I would say 1/5 population of Taiwan. 1/5 to 1/4 probably. So that's about the safety of the resident in Taiwan, because it's so close. And the human reliability. This is about, I just shared these ideas with the friends we had launched together, that because the Fukushima accident toward the end, they found it's a problem about the people who control the system, who need to take the most responsibility. Design, well, that's something wrong, but the one who made the wrong decision, who behaved wrongly, didn't follow the instruction, is the biggest problem. So human reliability is actually the biggest concern in Taiwan. If the guy who's running the procedure having something wrong, even the whole design, this is the thing our government really hard. It's really tough for them to convince people. You can convince people the technology is advanced, everything's fine, but how to guarantee the people is right? So that's the thing Taiwanese people are really concerned. Then I try to give you an overall picture following the different presidents, because I would say in Taiwan, the nuclear power issues are highly political. By highly political means it's almost just political. Not like other countries, maybe like economics, some social issue. I would say it's in Taiwan, it's totally political. Totally political. So following the different presidential administration, you may get a better, clear idea. Taiwan has the first party turnover in 2000. We have our first direct presidential election in 1996, but that was, the president elected was Li Denghui, the former chairman of Kuomintang. So up to 2000, the Kuomintang had been ruling Taiwan for 51 years, since 1949. So it's always Kuomintang. So the first party turnover was happened in 2000, and the Democratic Progressive Party, Chen Shui-bian, candidate was elected. But before that, the whole party took a very clear stance of anti-nuclear power. Very clear, very clear. So back in the authoritarian regime, the era, these people who were in the today they are not opposition party, because now Tsai Ing-wen, our president, she's the head of the DPP. So DPP is the ruling party. But back during the authoritarian era, DPP was kind of an opposition party, because they couldn't form a party. So they called themselves as like outside the party. The party means Kuomintang. So if you are not Kuomintang, you are all called outside of party, which means 党外. So you are not Kuomintang, you are 党外, you are outside of party. So all these outside of party people, they took this issue as one of the major issues to go against with KMT. So that's why I say the whole movement of anti-nuclear power thing is highly related to democratization process in Taiwan. But that's all about before the 2000. But after 2000, they first elected. So of course, when they got the power, what they want to do is, okay, let's go. Let's just suspend the forced nuclear power plants. The construction was initially in 1999. DPP was elected in 2000. So which means not much has been done. DPP can do power. Everything stopped. Everything stopped. But at that time, in our Congress legislative year, KMT was majority. So they passed a bill to force the DPP government to continue this construction. But the reason, okay, so why? The reason is KMT is a pro-business party. So for them, economic development is high on the list. That's the very first thing to do. So nuclear power, the stable power supply is more important than other things, so that they could have more foreign investment, they could have better economic development. So for pro-business party, electricity is key, nuclear power is key. But for DPP, before 2000, their only one goal was to topple down KMT. Not really getting power, not really to achieving the goals, but just to drag KMT down, to democratize Taiwan. So when they got there, they didn't really worry about economic development, because then this is our chance to realize, to make our goal should come true. So stop the nuclear power, but that was stopped by KMT as a majority in the Congress. So the government was forced to resume the construction of the fourth nuclear power plants in February 2001. Can2 Power in 2000, May 2000, decided to stop it, but then the legislature, the Congress told you, okay, sorry, you should continue. So they are forced to do this. But the government still tried to figure out a way to fight with KMT as a majority in the Congress. So they set the goal of nuclear-free Homeland. See, that's back in 2002. This year, we have written that into our law, electricity law. We will have a nuclear-free Homeland by 2025. But the idea was developed in 2002. The environmental law was passed, and the NFH was written in environmental law. So we expect to have the nuclear-free Homeland. And we organized a committee, and the committee was promoting, the committee of promoting, we established a committee to promote this goal. That was established in September 2002, which means in 2002, the DPP government had devoted to do this. And the measure of promoting NFH was drafted in 2003. And so you see the picture here. 核四公投, the fourth nuclear power plant referendum. Referendum on this side, and we need 100,000 signatures to get this referendum. So these are the people who sat outside the legislative yuan and collecting signatures. And that also relates to our referendum law, which means we have set the bar too high. So it's just very difficult to force, as a public, to force the government to hold a referendum. So the Referendum Act was put into practice in 2004. But since the bar was too high, so the public, the NGOs, they couldn't really make it true to have a referendum. So they kept demonstrating on the street. So that's interesting. The government was pro-nuclear free. The majority of the public, they are pro-nuclear free. But the problem is about the Congress. So these people, they were demonstrating on the street outside the Congress instead of government, because they know that's the Congress who stopped the government from doing nuclear free. And this is the year 2000, our source of generation. You can see here, nuclear. The total is about 118,000. Well, is that? Sorry, I'm not good at
184,000.
184,000. 38,000 from nuclear. It's roughly 22. It's roughly 22%. The coal is almost 50, 40 something, almost 50. So it's 50, 20 something, so 70. And we have some oil, we have some gas. If we say fossil, it's over 60, probably 65. And renewable, very small, almost none. Only hydropower. So that's the composition. And that's 2004, the first term by DPP president. 39, 21. So the rate of nuclear power was not decreasing. It's roughly still not 20, but I would say it's 18% or 19%. A lot of coal, oil, and gas. Well, we got some from the wind energy, but not much. Zero, solar panel, zero. Geothermal, zero. No tides, no others. Still very little. 2007, the year before President Chen stepped down. 40, it's increasing year by year. See, 38, 39, 40. Well, which means it increases with the whole consumption. But from that point of view, even though we had an anti-nuclear power government, the consumption or the generation was still increasing. Wind sectors rising a little bit. Solar panel, well, very badly. A lot of coal, a lot of oil, a lot of gas still. So the whole structure didn't change in the 7 years ruled by DPP. No. The data was from International Energy Agency, so you could find that. Then it went to the Maingzhou President Ma, who was the KMT president. So you can. This is northern Taiwan. Taipei is here. These are the two nuclear power plants. The fourth one is probably here. Taipei is here. You can see here. This is Taipei. It's a basin. Taipei is a basin. So this is Taipei Basin, surrounded by hills. Then these two nuclear power plants. The fourth one is going to be here. So which means Taipei City is surrounded by 3 major nuclear power plants. So this is a safety issue, I say. We care about the safety of the plant for sure, but it's just too close to ignore. It's just around Taipei City, 20 kilometers. The first one had many problems while being tested when they were on the construction and they tested. A lot of things happened, which really inspired people thinking, oh my God, when you were just still testing it, you found lots of problems. So how could you really make it into operation? So a lot of local demonstrations. Then Fukushima incident happened in March 2011. Okay, then when we went all the way to 2011, under KMT administration, the nuclear power went up, the number went up. Remember 38, 39, 40, 42. The coal went up as well. The total generation went up for sure, but each sector went up with the total generation, coal, oil, gas, and nuclear power. Well, see, we still didn't have the geothermal, no solar thermal, no tides, no others. Wind sector looks good, but compared to other, no, it's still quite small. Solar panel, no, not very good. 2012, 2011, 2012, a little bit decrease here, but that's because we shut down one of the reactor in the first nuclear power plants. First, and that's the maintenance. Then after they have done everything, the government just say, probably we shouldn't turn it on. Just leave it there to see if the generation supply is enough. So they just shut, and with the whole pressure from the society, but it's just a little bit, still 40. And see here is, I think it's still above 15%, which means since 2000 to up to 2012, always above 15%. And this is our former premier, Zhang Yinhua, who is the professor at City University. When he was the prime minister, at that time the social pressure was great, and the KMT government lost the majority in the Congress, which means reversed. The majority of Congress was DPP, which was pro-nuclear free. then the ruling party was KMT. Although they were pro-business, pro-nuclear power, but when they are reversed, they were facing the same pressure from the Congress to stop. Before, they forced the Congress to continue. Now they suffered, so therefore they were confronted with the pressure to stop. So he said, okay, let's make a referendum to see if the public wants. But of course, the government made a lot of propaganda to say, if we don't have the, first of all, that's very safe. Second, if we don't have that, we don't have stable energy supply, we don't have enough electricity. Third, the retail price will go up. So you can think about that. But the thing is, although he said, oh, we can have a referendum, he said this in February 2013, but up to date now, January 2018, in Taiwan, never. We have never done any referendum. We have done referendum on something, but not on nuclear power. It's weird. It's really weird. And if you can recognize Chinese, you can see there. 和四续见, if you continue the fourth nuclear power plant, Taiwan 再见, farewell Taiwan. So if you have that, then Taiwan will be gone. So, and they even have this flyers from the NGO, because when the Prime Minister says that we could have the referendum, then they made a flyer. Stop it. No nuclear waste. If you vote for yes on the referendum, we won't be able to do this again in 8 years, which means it will just continue in the future. So this is a very warning sign for the public. But toward the end, we didn't have the referendum. But the KMT government decided to suspend it, the whole construction in 2014. And the referendum has never been initiated. But why the KMT government decided to change their position? First of all, the approval rating of the president was going down and down and down to like 10%, 15%. So you would have no chance to win. Okay, if you've got no chance to win for the presidential election, that's fine. But how about the local elections? All these local congress, all these congressmen, all these local politicians, they didn't want to side with the KMT government to support nuclear power plant because they know they will lose the vote. So they forced, then that's internal politics, they forced the KMT authority to take the stand, being against the nuclear power. And in the Congress, the DPP was majority. So at that moment, Congress agreed to stop the forced nuclear power plant. The KMT government was forced first by Congress, second by themselves, by their comrades from the local city saying we should stop. Then they decided, okay, but they made a conditional promise. Okay, we can just stop it, but we only stop it for 3 years, starting from mid-2015, which means a few months later, I think it's May 2018, that promise was expired. Then the Taiwanese government, but now the government was another party, it's DPP. Then they are facing this choice. Okay, it's expired. Then that's us who needs to decide. And that's the thing going on in Taiwan recently. Okay, Tsai Ing-wen, our new president, the lady, well, again, as a long-term stance of DPP, they have been always anti-nuclear power. So the government has written the 2025 nuclear-free Homeland, 非核家园, into the guidelines on energy development in September 2016, a little bit more than 1 year ago, and made it very clear they will develop a green economy based on renewable energy. They developed 4 major goals: green economy, social equality, energy safety, and sustainable development. Well, that sounds very good. It's achievable if we can achieve that, for sure. But the problem is, then we suffer a massive power blackout. I'm sorry, this is 2017. I made it wrong. Last year, 2017, August, more than 6 million households in 70 counties were affected. That day, I was driving on my way home. So I was driving. Then I saw everyone pouring into the street. I said, What's wrong? No, everyone was on the street. The street was so crowded. It's afternoon around 5. Afternoon around 5. That's not the time for everyone on the street. So when I was on my way home, everyone was on the street. Then when I got back to my apartment, it was blacked out. I saw probably just this area. Then I went out. So everyone was on the street discussing what's wrong. So we even thought that POA is coming. So really, someone was not joking. You know, in our life experiences, you never try to imagine that 2/3 of Hong Kong was blacked out from nowhere. It's not a scheduled one. It's just all of a sudden, everything just the electricity is just gone. So everyone was so frightened. Working on, no one really knows what's happened because you couldn't turn on the TV, no electricity, so you just have no idea. So everyone tried to use the cell phone, but when you're running out of your electricity, so you really didn't know what happened. So that was very scary. So the president came out to apologize. So we're very sorry. And then she even described this accident as a national security issue. So really at that moment, some of us really believe that's POA. And China is coming. So that's so scary. But the thing behind the story is when we are moving toward nuclear free, these things happen. Massive blackout happen. And the government says that we should do something. But the thing is what to do. Well, for everywhere in the world, the government will always say, let's develop renewable energy. Let's develop clean energy. No one will say, let's use more thermal power. Let's use more fossil-generated electricity, because that's bad for the environment. So our government say the same thing. But the thing is, the development of renewable energy in Taiwan is very slow. Very, very slow. Now it's only 4%, 3.7, not even 4, 3.7. But our goal is to, and remember that, then the rate of nuclear power is around like 16 to 20. Renewable is only 3.7. By 2025, in 7 years, we will get rid of all these 16, replaced with renewable, which is now only 3.7. How to do this? The government has no answer. They say, well, you know, we will speed up. That's what they said a few weeks ago. Now it's only 4%, but we will speed up for sure. So current, the debates are, should we still pay for the maintenance fee? You know, we are still paying money for that suspended nuclear power plants. The government, what they say is, well, you know, we just suspended, as I said, 3 years. So the new government needs to decide. If they want to go further, then, you know, we should just keep it till the time, then you decide, then we go further. Or not. I don't know, but at least so far, we need to maintain it. If the government decide not to go further, at least, you know, since we have already invested a lot of money, so if you keep that okay, we can still sell it out to other countries. You know, some other countries may need the facilities. So at this moment, you still need to keep it in order for future to sell. If we decide not to go further, you know, for sale, so you need to keep it look good. But if you decide to run it further, then of course you need to make it good now. So either way, you just have to pay for it. And the budget was just passed last week. Huge money. And can other nuclear power plants become decommissioned as scheduled? The other three, as we say, things from this year. This year, next year, every year, we will have a reactor decommissioned. But could that be done as expected? We don't know, because we are in shortage now. To what extent we should really develop the renewable energy as an alternative? But the reality is, our government is developing the thermal power plants at the same time right now. So the alternative is not renewable energy, but thermal power. Okay, this is our roadmap. So why we say 2025? Because 2025 is the last reactor which will be decommissioned. 2025, this is in our year. 114, 中华民国114, but that's 2025 May. So that's why they set up a goal in 2025. But the problem is, the first one we are reaching this December, 2018, December. It's only 11 months away. But our government, what they think is, should we prolong the license? Really, they are thinking of this. So if you couldn't make it here, how could you make here, here, here? Then 2025. No way. Oh, this is 2013. The nuclear 41 is still roughly 15 to 16. Nothing changed since the year 2000. And the coal is almost 50. Pretty similar. 2015. 36. 25. It's still roughly 15. I think nothing changed if you see the composition in Taiwan. Well, here, we still don't have these different alternatives. We have more wind generation, well, a little bit solar, but we still heavily rely on this. But the problem is at the same time, the question we should ask, with only 7 years, is that possible? If you see all the experiences like this, how would you expect that we can make a goal in 7 years, only 7 years away? If reaching the goal, if Taiwan will be the first country in Asia. But however, the decision is a result of long-term political struggles. So you look that very unrealistic. Whoever being the ruling party, they say we may have to think. Whoever being the opposition party, they say we should do it. So that's a big political issue, not an economic issue even. And carbon reduction is prior to phasing out nuclear power. So Taiwan is one of the top countries per capita carbon emission. Taiwanese people, which means we really consume too much, and we really have a serious problem. So, which means you cannot use thermal power as an alternative. So the renewable is the only way. But as you see, we don't even have the 5%, only 3.7%. In 7 years, you need to get that high, 15%. So we should learn from Germany, but unfortunately, we are more like Japan, isolated island, imported over 90 energy. Japan announced this idea, nuclear-free, in 2011, but where they are now, I think you are very clear. No way for them. They don't even set up the goal. What they say now is they are going to reinitiate the nuclear power plant, but they say it's nuclear-free in 2011. So it is impossible for both parties to reinitiate. No way. Another idea is, because this is a morally right thing, we Taiwanese sometimes are interesting. We really believe in morally right thing. Even practically it's impossible. But since it's morally right, so you just couldn't say no. So I don't think everyone will say yes to nuclear power. Some people will say. But in Taiwan, even they want to say yes, they will still. It's kind of like political correctness. So because that's morally right. So we always go for that. But do you really believe that? Well, but I still think we should. We should. But how to deal with the gap? You think, okay, you have what you have. Then people will say, well, that's government's business. That's not my business. That's you, government, who needs the president, the prime minister, you need to fix the problem. Okay? And at the same time, they don't reduce their electricity consumption. So that's really weird. So during this demonstration, one media just criticized this activist saying, you are using the laptop to against nuclear power. What does that mean? You are using the electricity against electricity. So this is really the slogan in Taiwan. Right. So more fossil-generated electricity and greater carbon emission seem to be the cost of phasing out nuclear power in Taiwan. So that's very quick and very rough. So I hope you can get the idea. Okay, thank you very much.
Chong-Ming for the talk, and now we open the floor to invite questions.
Thank you for the talk just now. With climate change becoming more serious, do you think stakeholders like NGOs would start to relax on how hard they push against nuclear?
The government couldn't take nuclear power as an excuse, couldn't take climate change as an excuse to say, oh, so we should use nuclear power instead of thermal power. Because what they propose to have more is renewable. But what I presented here is they just couldn't make it. They can say it. Everyone, all the politicians, they can say we should develop renewable power. But the thing is how much, to what extent they could make it. But I doubt it. So I show you the number, 4%. That's just way too low. So do I get back to, do I really answer your question?
I guess the question is more like, as climate change gets worse over time, do you think the government, citizens, and even NGOs would actually start pushing for nuclear instead of being anti-nuclear, I guess?
Yeah, as I say,
Yeah.
the anti-nuclear is a done deal in Taiwan. So no bother discussing.
Yeah.
No way to renegotiate, no way. The latest news about the fourth nuclear power plant was the Taipower. They have already planned to convert the nuclear power plant into thermal power plants. They have already started to redesign. They say, since we have the land and we have all these constructions, so how could we, so let's just convert it into the thermal power. So nuclear power is, as I say, no way, no way. So even though with serious problem with climate change, everyone, including the government, people, society, NGO, no, we won't go back. So that's why I said at the very beginning, in Taiwan, we may not made it to achieve the goal, but at least we won't regress like other countries, like Japan, like probably South Korea, we won't.
Thank you for the interesting presentation. I have a very similar question. I wonder if there are NGOs and people trying to stop coal power stations, because I think coal is much worse problem than nuclear.
Yeah.
So I wonder what the situation is there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We just discussed a little bit in Taiwan about Taiwan during the launch. The interesting story in Taiwan is, we suffered very bad air pollution in the past week, especially during the New Year's Day. In Taiwan we have 101, which is a landmark building. Every New Year Eve, they have the firework. That day, few hours before the midnight, people went to the street in Taipei City. That's the tallest building almost in the world. You couldn't see it. The air was so bad, you just couldn't. I live about like 15 minutes away from the building at 101. I couldn't see the building. So you could tell how bad the air was. But the worst place is in the south. So the Taiwanese government tried to blame Chinese government, say, hey, that's China. The wind brought all the bad polluted air into Taiwan. But then one scholar came out to say, well, actually that's our own problem. Because when Taipei, if the wind came from north, so Taipei should be bad first, then it's go to southern part. But sometimes the air was horrible in southern part. Actually, they're way worse than we have in Taipei. So the scholar said, no, that's our own problem. So the environmental group said, no, that's our problem, so we need to fix that. So they forced the government to develop renewable energy, clean energy. So, but the thing is, for them, their job is to push the government. But the government needs to get the job done. But the government just couldn't. Sometimes they just couldn't. But they cannot say no. So they say yes, but they develop that very slowly. Then they say a lot of things about the beautiful future of renewable energy. But I just brought you back to the real number and say, they can say whatever, the government can say whatever they want. But if that is that achievable, you can really tell from the number. But at least I will say no, that's impossible at this moment, no.
It's very interesting, this dichotomy of nuclear power as an isolated or separate moral issue for decision by the community, and the holistic energy supply issue. In Hong Kong, we had this, I think, sort of similar discussion led by a government which really put nuclear as part of the whole package for carbon reduction, climate change. I think some of us here may remember, we were talking about the reliability of supply of energy, the the environment, the price that the consumers need to pay for the supply of electricity. Having these three criteria in mind, then we go through the list of energy supply options. Fossil fuel, which is coal more polluting, and gas less polluting, and then there's some advocate for renewable and also the nuclear. So it was nuclear featured in a more holistic discussion on energy supply. I don't know. I find it interesting why in Taiwan nuclear become a moral issue for discussion.
Because it's dangerous. As I show you the picture, it's so close to Taipei, where a lot of people resides there. 1/4 of population in Taiwan, we stay in Taipei metropolitan area. Then no matter where these three are, that's very much like in your backyard, less than 25 kilometers away. So no one like that. So that's a moral issue, I mean. So because people feel threatened, they feel dangerous, and they know technology is advanced, but you couldn't really guarantee that people won't make wrong decision in the plans, or the people would not follow the procedure wrong. So that's something you cannot control. So morally right means I want to secure my own safety, my personal safety. So I don't want to see that around me, the nuclear power plants. And at the same time, if you say, so how about to fill the gap between the consumption and generation? Of course, for Taiwanese people, we need to reduce our consumption. Then you have the justified reason to say we don't need nuclear power plant. But the thing is, we don't reduce our consumption. So the government needs to satisfy us because we have both. So the government turned their head to the industrial sector. So they limit their supply, like 1 hour per day or something like that. If they move out, sometimes Taiwanese factory, they just move out. But we have a very weird political situation is some Taiwanese businessmen, they move their factory to China. So I think you may know this. For some reason, the DPP government trusts that most of them are pro-KMT, so they don't really care. You can just go. Because you won't go for me, so just go. So, and the good thing is once you move out, we save more energy, more electricity for the household, so that's fine. But our dilemma for DPP government now is, since we don't have the stable power supply, and we don't have a good economic development, they need to guarantee the foreign investors, especially the American investors, that we could supply stable power for them to invest in Taiwan. But that thing, we couldn't make it. This is just like last month. The American investors came to Taiwan. Our Prime Minister made a public announcement that we will devote it to guarantee you the stable power supply. This happened last month. So from the other side, you can tell, because we couldn't, at this moment, because we couldn't, which means we keep using electricity, the society, the consumer, but we say no to nuclear power. So there's a gap.
Thanks for the great presentation. So I'm wondering, what is the biggest difficulty for Taiwan to develop the renewable energy? So you said the government just cannot make it. So what is the biggest difficulty there? Is it about the limitation of wind resources, or solar, or other reasons?
Well, if we compare Taiwan to, say, Germany, which is the most successful case in the world, I would say our market is just too small. For developing renewable energy, at the very beginning, you need to be prepared. You will suffer from the very high prices for a while. Then gradually, when all the technology and the market have become mature, then the cost will go down. Then the tariff will go down. But the whole Taiwan, the market is too small. So similar situation is that we discuss about electricity reform to separate the power sector into generation, transmission, and distribution. Because I studied China, so I know they tried to do this, reform this in China. They failed. But China, the market in China is so huge. They have another reason. But in Taiwan, when you have market so small, how could you really separate? They're all closely interconnected with each other. Generation, transmission, and distribution. So that's theoretically you can do this, but empirically I say I don't think so. So same for renewable energy. Of course you can develop wind turbine, you can buy more wind turbine, you can use solar panel, but the cost is rather high. And the people don't want to pay a lot for electricity. You know, the electricity prices in Taiwan is one of the lowest in the world. I don't know if you know this. South Korea is another case. And Taiwan is one of these lowest because the government heavily subsidizes this sector. So if they develop renewable energy, which means they need to put in more money to subsidize everyone. But when you have very poor economic development, you have bad revenue, which means your government have no money. Then you need to heavily subsidize these people who don't like to have nuclear power. You know, it's just a vicious cycle. You don't have power, so you don't have good economic development. You don't have good economic development, so you don't have money to subsidize the electricity sector. You don't have money to subsidize electricity sector generation so that you couldn't guarantee good supply, stable supply, so that you won't have good economic development. So that's a vicious cycle. So that's why I don't think we are able to develop renewable energy. And from the number, you can also tell, in the past 15 years, we try to push this nuclear-free idea. But at the same time, what accompanies is the increasing in thermal power plants instead of renewable. So empirically, you can tell that thing must be very difficult. That's the thing we discussed about South Korea, about Japan, about China. Renewable thing is just difficult, let alone Taiwan is such a small market.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Tsai. I would like to ask you many questions, but I know that you have a limited time. My understanding from your talk is that it's basically mission impossible, because you say that for moral grounds, Taiwan is going for a nuclear-free homeland, but you just answered the question saying that renewable energy is not feasible. So by 2025, what is going to happen in Taiwan?
It's mission impossible if we increase in thermal power plant or fossil generated. But it's impossible if we want to replace with renewable. So that's the first thing. It's possible.
Okay.
But with more like carbon emission or air pollution, that's always possible, right? We can build a lot of thermal power plants, always possible, but it's impossible to have renewable. So back to your question, what's impossible? Well, to be honest, then I have to bring you back to our political situation is, we have a local election coming up in 2018, December, I will November this year. And we are going to have our presidential election in 2020. So for both parties, to be honest, they don't care about 2025. They care about 2018, the local election. They care about the presidential election in 2020. If you say, well, tell me the truth, that's impossible. Okay, you can say this. Either party, you can say this for free. Then the other party will say, oh, welcome, good, nice. Then you will lose for sure. So 2025 is a goal. But is that achievable? Or which party is going to make it true? They don't really care. What they care is the coming election. So that's why I say it's highly political. So if you check the number, check the research, it's almost impossible. Almost impossible. But the politician will never tell you. Like if I was the government official, I read in the news how they respond to these questions. We asked them same questions as well. How could you make it? They gave a very interesting answer. They say, now we have renewable only 3.7. But you know what? We will speed up. So this year is 3.7. Probably next year we'll get it to 5. The year after we'll get it to 10. Then eventually, 2025, we will get there. They just tell you like this. Really. on the news media. You can check. They just say this. So how could you say, well, I don't believe it? It's just hard. It's just hard. So back to your question, by 2025, I don't know what will happen, but at least I feel confident to say I don't think we will. We could be the nuclear-free homeland, but I don't think, if so, our fossil-generated electricity will go down. I will say it will go up with the decrease of nuclear power plants. Not renewable for sure.
For the reactors due to be shut down for decommissioning later this year and another one next year, I think behind the scene, because to shut down a reactor for decommissioning is not just make a decision, you can do it just like that. My guess is that given the tight energy supply situation in Taiwan, I think new fuel has already been ordered for this reactor to be shut down, because I tell you, nuclear fuel, the blackout last year in 2017, what we heard here is that the reserve margin of the generation capacity is down to single digit, probably under 5%. We in Hong Kong, we couldn't live with that kind of reserve margin, but it will be crisis situation if we ever get close to below 20% for us. But 5% is just unthinkable.
I can give you two information for reference. The reserve margin in Taiwan, when the blackout was happened, is only 1.3.
Exactly.
1.3.
Yeah.
But that blackout was not. It was totally human unreliability. Someone pressed the wrong button.
Yeah.
Really, someone pressed the wrong button from the gas company. That's even not from the electricity company. Make comprehensive, massive blackout. So human reliability is one thing. But even though at that time, that day, the reserve margin is 1.3%. Well, minus the nuclear power was not included. If included, it's about 10. So the government always say 10. But if you exclude the nuclear power, it's only 1.6. Another thing is, I totally agree with you, because 2 weeks ago, our Congress was reviewing the budget. And the Thai power, one item is, they managed to expand the pool to storage the waste. They put that in the budget. So they have already done this. They have already been processing this. But the thing is, no media reports, because we thought that's a done deal, so no one cares. And every day in Taiwan, a lot of things happen. The headline in Taiwan varies every day. So nuclear power is no longer the headline news. So it's only on the budget book, that's it. No one really cares. So I think they won't stop it. They won't decommission. No way. I totally agree with you. And another thing is, one of the reactors in the first nuclear power plant was off. After maintenance, they decided not to turn it off. But just last month, when we had the shortage, the president said, it's from the president, he said, probably we should think to turn it on. But the thing is, it's only not even a year scheduled to be decommissioned, and had been putting into off for almost like 2 years. But the president said, probably we should think to turn it off. So I don't think that schedule will be followed. No, for sure. I agree with you.
There's another subtle positive sign here for nuclear in Taiwan. Is that the Ma Ying-jeou government suspended the
fourth
plant.
Yeah.
The DPP government has been in power for more than 2 years now.
1.5.
They haven't said, let's just can the whole project. Even though I know Thai Power is now reallocating whatever manpower they still at the fourth plant to other places, but they are keeping the reactors in maintenance condition, just to make sure whenever the political decisions be made to restart, they have to feel that.
Yeah.
So whenever the government decided to get it started, it will be a matter of 6 months or maybe at most a year.
But the Congress, when they reviewing the budget last week, they tried to cancel the maintenance fee. They say, since we don't need that, why bothering maintaining it? So, we still have another, obviously, the new party, this young guys, New Power Party.
Oh, yeah.
They are very active. Then they are the guy who say, we should cancel, we should delete this item, no maintenance fee, because we just don't need that. But it just happened, so let's see. We still wait for more information.
I think thanks a lot for all the comments and questions and the discussion. In order to let Zhongming got sufficient time to make it for the next meeting, so I think it's a very good time for us to draw a closure to this very interesting seminar. We thank Zhongming once again for bringing a very important political perspective of nuclear development and with a very interesting, important case study from Taiwan. So thanks once again, and we hope to invite you again. Come here again and talk about the more recent, latest development, further development in Taiwan.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.